Here I am. Good morning, everybody. I would like to welcome you to Jules and Company TV and morning coffee. So go grab your coffee, come and have a seat, have a listen. It is July 24th. It's 10 a.m. It's Friday. It's beautiful. It's a great day to smile. Today, I have a special guest. I'm so super stoked to have this beautiful person on my broadcast. Her name is Liz Page. I had the opportunity to creep her like crazy, as I do with everybody when I have them come on the show. And she's pretty interesting. She's got a heart of gold. She's a huge advocate for community. She has a very hip, trendy style with all these funky hats she wears. And she loves her dogs. And she loves people. So today we are going to talk about mental health. When this COVID stuff happened 4 or 5 months ago, the sad part is we kind of forget that, well, it affects us. It affects us mentally. It affects us in so many ways other than just protecting us from a germ, a disease. So our mental health has been shaken a little bit over the last few months, and I am a pretty positive, upbeat person, and anyone who knows me realizes my glass is half full. And unfortunately, over the last few months, my glass has been more closer to quarter full, and I'm struggling sometimes with that, which makes my heart go out to those who on a normal day are already struggling. So we are going to talk about mental health. We're going to talk about how real it is. We're going to talk about the fact that, you know what, it's okay. You're allowed to feel the way you do. It doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't make you a bad person, and it certainly doesn't make anyone love you less. We got to remove the stigma. So today, Liz and I are going to hopefully be able to do that for you. Good morning, Liz.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I am so
Friday morning coffee with you.
Good morning. Cheers, my friend. Cheers.
Oh, to you as well.
So, how was your day? It's only been an hour or two, but how's your day going?
So far, so good. And it's Friday and it's sunny, so I have no complaints.
No complaints. Well, I would like to, for anyone who's watching live or anyone who's watching the recording later, I would like to say how I know you. I think it's a great way to remove some stigma. I know you, because you can't share this, but I know you because you were one of the lovely therapist counselors that I have been in to see at St. Clair Child Youth. That's how we met. Triple P Parenting, I think. Is that what it was called?
It was our parent group, yeah.
Parent group.
It wasn't P necessarily, but it was about positive parenting and prioritizing the relationship and connections and that sort of thing. And it was a pleasure to have you, and you were I think, sort of a ray of sunshine in that group.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. Well, I tell you, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything St. Clair Child Youth does. I have taken advantage and benefited from your walk-in services, which I would like to talk to a little bit more about shortly, with my children, for myself. Just wonderful people. I've not encountered anyone there that has made me feel uncomfortable or made me feel small or made me feel ashamed, because I think that's the key. A lot of people are just so afraid to say, hey, you know what, we have some issues going on and we need some external help because it takes a village, and we are part of the village, right? So this is why I brought you, because I loved you then. I think you're amazing, and I thought, you've got so much. You just look at you. Your smile. You got a great smile. Your positive energy. So let's get to business here. So you're at work today. Where do you?
So our agency has been working from home, like mostly everybody else, and doing virtual counseling and telephone counseling and supporting our clients remotely. But around June 22nd, I think it was, we returned to the building to do 1 week on, and then returning home to work from home 1 week. So we rotate, because most of us share offices, so in order to be safe and sanitized and all of that, we're doing sort of a rotating schedule. But there's plenty of us in the office, and it is nice to be back and sort of get your bearings again and feel like you're getting back to some sense of normalcy. But our walk-in therapy that we traditionally did in the building is happening remotely and virtually, and it's been very successful. And our clients are starting to really access it and know about it, which has been really really helpful.
Now, when you talk about being remote and being virtual and all this, we spoke about this earlier before we came on. For me personally, I prefer to be like right there. Like, I wish you were sitting next to me. We were talking, because that's more my thing, my jam. But the youth today, this is actually probably very appealing for them, isn't it?
We are finding that there is a large amount of our youth that are actually sometimes preferring the virtual because they don't have to leave their house. Some of them don't even leave their comfy space. Some of them are sharing a little bit more than they might in an office setting because they feel safe in their nest. And it's their world. This is what they've grown up knowing, FaceTime and Skype and all that sort of thing. So they're very comfortable, and in some cases they're helping us, like technologically. They're saying, oh, if you want to share your screen, you just do this. And because it kind of reverses that teaching relationship a little bit. And
It sure does.
there's lots of laughs. There's some there's some funny stories and some cute little mishaps that have happened technically, but it's humbling to find yourself in a position where everything's new and you have to sort of hit the ground running. And when you share that with the client and you say, I've never done a Zoom meeting before, so this is new for me, I might be difficult. All of a sudden we're on the same level, we're both vulnerable, right? And so
Yes.
that shared vulnerability can lead to some really powerful moments.
Oh, that's great. So I have a question for you. Right now, obviously, things are different. We're talking a little bit about, like, have you noticed a big change with, how's the parenting scene? Like, have you heard from parents? Are they struggling with the kids at home? Do you know what I mean? Like, are kids, I don't know, just some tips, some ideas, something to help these kids that are, like my son, okay, first of all, I'm sure he has some mental health. We all have mental health, right? His mental health is in a good place right now. But he's home. He can't see his friends. He's 13. He's starting to hang out with a small bubble of friends. But prior to this, like, I don't want to say stuck in his room, but it's very hard to get these young folks motivated. And the longer they sit there and just kind of get into this new normal, it's almost like their love tank gets dry and they just kind of get blah. What do we do with these kids? What do you do? Just pick them up and just go, let's go. We got to go out. Like, what do you do?
Well, I think initially we were all just sort of hunkered down and and the online learning was a huge component early on, up until the end of June for most families. And I feel like the stress on parents to sort of work from home, keep your family safe, ramp up your sanitization, do your online learning, try and find toilet paper in this city. The on parents were, enormous. So I feel like initially parents were just sort of in that self-preservation mode. Anything like, you want to have chips for breakfast? Sure.
Yes.
And they really quickly learned that flexibility, meeting your kids where they're at. If they're having a hard time, saying to them, yeah, this is really hard. I'm having a hard time too. It's not easy, and I know you're missing your friends. I'm missing mine too. And and prioritizing the relationship instead of saying, yeah, and by the way, get your room cleaned up and get your butt out of bed. It's 10. Like, letting some of the small stuff go and really focusing on the relationship, because that relationship is what's going to get us through to when times are a little bit easier, right? So with our clients, some of them are completely overwhelmed and saying, like, I'm trying to work from home, I'm trying to do online learning. So we sort of said, prioritize relationships and work outwards from there. If you have to let the online learning go, or you need to have a conversation with your kid's teacher and say, really struggling to keep up, I would say in every case, every teacher that I heard from or spoke to was like, absolutely, mental health is more important. We'll catch people up when we need to. I know my daughter's teacher was phenomenal. She even did like a little drive-by visit because she knew that my daughter was struggling with.
Oh,
missing
that's
that
great.
connection and stuff. So it was tricky. I think really early on was especially tricky with the increased demand. And again, I know I made a little joke about toilet paper, but that was real, right? People lining up in the grocery store and down to their last roll and, being like, does anybody know where to get some? There was a bit of a panic feeling, right?
For toilet paper. I know! Out of all things.
Right?
We don't need groceries, we don't need food, we don't need staples, but we need to make sure that we can wipe our butt.
It's kind of important.
It was very, I'm finding as well that whether or not, like, you make the joke about the toilet paper and that, it just goes to show you what fear does to community, right? And so unfortunately, this is all new. No one knows. We still don't know. I feel like we're at the beginning of something, you and I, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't like it. I don't want it to be the beginning of something.
It's daunting, right? What is that going to look like? Are we ever going to be able to hug people that we don't see very often? Like, it is a little daunting. And we tell our parents and parent group that that anger is fear and sadness' bodyguard. So I know initially on Facebook,
I like that.
I was seeing lots of angry, negative rants about people hoarding toilet paper and people being inconsiderate and people doing this and people doing that, and just lots of finger pointing and lots of really unkind behavior. And I know initially I was like, wow, like, we're better than that. But then I remembered that anger is fear and sadness' bodyguard. So people were scared. People were sad about their loss of connection with people. Maybe they had to cancel a really important family vacation. Maybe a relative can't come to visit. Like, there's a lot of reasons why people are sad. Maybe they lost a loved one to COVID. So I mean, this anger that we're seeing, it makes more sense to me when I frame it in that it's fear and sadness' bodyguard. So, if we peel away the layers of this kind of negative, crabby, every man for himself tone that's kind of pervasive right now, I think if we, drill down to that and realize that it's really fear and sadness, we're much more tolerant and empathetic and able to sort of excuse some of that behavior. And, so I hope that people are able to sometimes not take it personally and think, that's not about me, that's about them.
I read an article when this started. I'm sure I kept the magazine just because I keep weird things like that for my kids for future, right? 20, 40, 50, 60 years from now. And the line that this person put, he was being silly, but just talking and he said, what's going to happen with our new days, our new world at this point, at the new normal? He says, kind people will be kinder and jerks will be jerkier. And I know it sounds silly, but and it was just a play with words, but it's true. I'm finding that usually the spread's about this. You got the people that are crusty and then you got the nice people, but right now the nice people are really stepping up to the plate, and then you got these people down here. So that's where there's a big gap now, and it's like one extreme to another. You encounter folks that are just wonderful human beings and respectful, and they are going through life, and they're mindful of distance, and they're mindful of wearing a mask if you can't have distance, and and then you've got these other ones that are just like freaking out on everybody, and that maybe they should contact some mental health support because like you say, that's right, because that's what it is. Like you said, it's fear, it's all of that, and it's just and it manifests into something that's your go-to emotion when you don't know how to cope, right?
Exactly. A really good example of that is that huge bottle can drive that the social service worker students initiated in the city, and they raised $28,000 in the midst of a pandemic.
That's great.
Which is incredible. Like, I've never heard of anything quite that successful. Let alone in the midst of all the constraints that we had to deal with. And yet there were people in the community commenting on the page saying, I had my empties out and nobody picked them up, and that's ridiculous, and I had to go out and get them. And I thought, I think they might have been a little overwhelmed with the huge response, and isn't that wonderful? And maybe you could take your own empties back and donate the money. I don't know, like, be part of the solution. So yeah, that's an example of, kind people being kinder and difficult feelings getting in the way of being kind. So that's just a little example that really sort of stood out for me.
So you said you did this bottle drive. Has there been anything else that you've been up to as far as trying to get some financial support with?
Well, so that was for the Good Shepherd, and the second year social service worker students banded together and collaborated with the inn, and they worked their tails off to have that happen. I wasn't directly involved. I was just peripherally supporting and cheering them on, and proud of them. Our agency's been working really hard in the background to try and make sure we have everything we need to do this safe reopening and make sure our clients are safe. So I know our community response, like United Way, has been giving out some emergency grants. The Community Foundation, Talk for Tamara. We've had some incredible donations from people who want to help and realize that we're in the midst of some really unprecedented times, and we had to get rid of like our lobby chairs and our lots of our furniture because it wasn't wipeable and easy to sanitize. So
that's an expense.
Really expensive that we had to get some more laptops because staff need to work from home. So there was a real, I think maybe a feeling of panic, like how are we going to afford all this? We're a nonprofit. We're already, struggling all the time. So our community, and it happens every time that there's a cry for help, our community responds incredibly to that sort of need, and have been incredibly supportive, which has been really, really nice to see, and really sort of feels like reassuring that we're all in this together.
We are all in this together. We sure are. Someone posted, we're all in the same boat but different storms, something like that. And I thought that's pretty accurate, because you speak to some folks and they're not even noticing any change in their life, right? Their life is not changed at all. They're used to this.
A healthcare worker whose whole life has been turned upside down, and in the middle of all of the chaos, some of them had to rehome their children, or they themselves had to go live in a trailer in order to make sure their family was safe. And I think, wow, and that's why of course, the whole thank you to the frontline people, just huge sacrifices that they made.
Huge sacrifices. Well, I'm glad I went into the hospital yesterday. Long story short, had a headache, had to go to emerge. And I will tell you, I didn't really want to go at first, because I'm like, I just don't want to go to the hospital. But really, I was incredibly impressed with the whole from the moment. Yeah, unbelievable, so impressive. Like our hospital has done really well. Oh, someone's messaging us. Oh, we got a comment, Liz. Ready?
Oh, what is that?
You are awesome, he says. That would be the fellow you saw earlier. Give me a little kiss on my cheek. That's Jamie. He's such a sweet guy. He's so supportive. Now, so before we started, I asked you to send me some talking points and some things. So in that, I went through there was so much information. So first thing I want to say is there are copious amounts of places for mental health support. Absolutely. But let's just hypothetically say someone goes, well, there's so many, which one do you pick? So what would you, really, do you know what I mean? Like I thought, okay, well, so I saw the one, there's all of them were good, but me, I'm a very engaged parent. I do believe that it's very important. Kids did not come with instruction manuals. And at a very young age, I realized when my kids were very little that I need as much help as I can get, because I want to raise some mentally strong, healthy, good adults. And so this is why I found you. But the one thing that I saw was this one. There was a mental health services you've got on your Facebook page for parents. And you also had something else about, I think it's this one, sorry. This one. So you've got the Sarnia chapter of Parents for Children's Mental Health. I like that very much. So tell me, who runs that? You, or who runs those?
So it's really neat. A few years ago, our agency embarked on this family engagement strategy, and I was lucky enough to be involved in being a staff ally. So we formed the Lambton Family Advisory Committee, and we have some amazing involved dynamic parents who want to have a voice in how mental health services are shaped in our city. We had focus groups, we did surveys, we collected data around what do parents feel is important, what do they identify as the gaps in our services, and how can we better service our youth and kids and families. So that group met monthly. We did things like other agencies might ask us to look at the brochure and say, would that be parent friendly? Would you find that respectful? And so we lent our voice to different initiatives, and we spent a lot of time talking about specifically, how do parents want to be, um, treated when their kids are struggling, and making sure that we're respectful of all the knowledge that they bring, and that sort of thing. And a spin-off of that group was that we recognized that a peer-to-peer support group was really what parents want. They want to talk to another parent who can say, wow, you're not alone, I'm struggling too, and I had that exact same problem and I found help at da 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 da. So they're sharing their knowledge,
Oh,
they're sharing their
perfect.
experience, they're sharing their resources, but most of all, they're sharing their empathy and validation. Um, and some of that was happening at our LFAC meetings, our family advisory meetings, which was great. However, we wanted to really give it, the respect that it deserves. So it needed its own standalone group. And so Parents for Children's Mental Health is a provincial initiative, and they have chapters all over. Sarnia had never had one, which is kind of hard to believe considering the size of our city and that
Yes.
right? So we had some help from the Center of Excellence and Parents for Children's Mental Health, and we established a local chapter. And there's 2 women that are absolutely incredible. In fact, you should have them on your project.
Okay, let's write this down. Who?
And Jessie White. They are incredible. They're both parents who are very open that they have been navigating mental health services in our community and have been walking alongside their children who have some struggles. And they have some knowledge and insight and experience and support to offer. And they are incredible. So lots of parents who finish our parent group, they're like, we wish this could go on. We love this. We love sharing with other parents. We love hearing what's going on. Can't this go on forever? And we're like, no. But you can join the PCMH group and you can, have peer-to-peer support there. So it's kind of nice to have that bridge to be able to offer people a space where they can literally go and just feel supported. And they don't have to go every month. They can go when they feel up to it. Right now they're meeting virtually or having like online chat. They usually meet in the building across from McDonald's, the Lambton Mental Wellness Center, once a month. So when
Lambton, okay, say again, where? On Christina?
Lambton Mental Wellness. It's right across from McDonald's on Christina Street.
Is that where the business place, Sarnia Business?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
And so, and they meet there monthly, and they have their meetings. So anyway, they would be fabulous for you to chat with sometime. But the
I've requested joining, just so you know. I've already requested. Oh, okay. I asked them if they'll take me. I sent a little request to join. I went through and creeped all this stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I like that. I like that a lot. So I did send a request.
Even their social media page has a ton of resources. People post articles about ADHD or depression or anxiety or strategies to deal with stress. And so even if somebody just wants to follow their social media page, there's lots of really good material there. And you can kind of get your feet wet and decide if you want to go to a meeting. So,
I want to go to a meeting.
Yeah,
I want to go to a meeting. I do. I like. You know what? Again, it's all about putting tools in your toolbox, and some people need to put their pride aside and realize that they can't do it alone, and that is okay. I mean,
it feels good to know that
yes,
somebody who hears you and knows what you're going through and
yes,
wants to be by your side.
You're not alone. You're not alone, and we are, yes. Now, this self-care during COVID, I checked that out too. That was interesting.
Yeah. So there's lots, the government and many of the larger agencies provincially have come up with sort of like a tip sheet or resources. There's all kinds of wonderful ones. The one at Mind Your Mind, I find they do a really great job. There's some, it's an app that you can download to your device. Kids can download like meditation apps, or adults can. They have short ones, they have longer ones. There's just lots of amazing resources out there online if people are,
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Yeah. And the thing is, again, I didn't even know about this Mind Your Mind. Those are the kinds of things that I was like, how would someone know about that unless you're listening to us today?
Yeah. It's 24/7. Why wouldn't you check it out, right? And the thing about self-care, and this is another thing we preach pretty heavily in our parent group and in our single session virtual therapy, as parents, there's lots of pressure on us around managing right now, right? So what helps us? Is it gardening? Is it going for a walk? Is it,
guitar?
Having a conversation with a friend? Yeah, what is it? So realizing what empties your frustration beaker so that you're able to be at your best when you're encountering tough situations is so important.
Yes, you have nothing to give if you're dry, and that's when the anger and frustration and
Bucket, right?
that's right. I hear you, girl. I hear you. There was another one here. Let's see here. Like I said, you had all of these. I loved it, loved it, loved it. So this one here, Lambton Mental Wellness Center.
That I was mentioning across from McDonald's. Lambton Mental Wellness offers peer-to-peer mental health supports for adults. But they also offer this amazing group. It's called NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, and it's for caregivers of people who struggle with mental illness. And so if it's your daughter, your son, your dad, your uncle, your grandma, it doesn't matter. You can go and take this group, and they're doing it virtually, I understand, at this time. I think it's 10 weeks, and it gives you like concrete strategies on how to manage, how to be supportive without enabling, all of those amazing resources. So it's a little known secret in our city. It used to be called, it's gone through a couple different transformations and had a couple different names.
Mm-hmm.
So its current name is Lambton Mental Wellness, and Cheryl Yakabelli is the executive director, and she is absolutely fantastic.
So she's someone else we need to have come on. You know what we need to do? We need to have we should have like we'll have coffee hour with like a bunch of us. How's that? Yeah, that would be fun. What was her name, sorry?
Cheryl Yakabelli. I can message you later with spelling.
Perfect.
But they are doing amazing things. They work closely with all the other agencies to sort of help where they can. They really, I think, feel the real need in our community. Some of our most vulnerable people are not finding services easily, and I think their location is helpful too. They're right almost near downtown. There's very few rules, about who can go there and why. They have coffee hour where you can just go and get a coffee and sit and visit.
So do they have walk-in?
With what?
Do they have walk-in?
It's not like walk-in therapy. It's more like walk-in and you'll be supported and you'll find some fellowship almost. It's really, I think, a really welcoming, accepting, non-judgmental space.
So back to all of these different things. Are they all under the St. Clair Child Youth umbrella? No? Or is it like you don't work with, like how, you have a lot of hats?
Community partners.
Community partners, thank you. But you also work, you're at St. Clair Child Youth. You're also an educator at the college.
Educator is a big word. I think I call myself a facilitator.
A facilitator is good. Well, I struggle with folks. I struggle when I hear people say I'm a professor at the college, and I'm like, oh, and they're like, I teach night school.
Too much pressure. I don't.
Yeah. I'm like, no, a professor worked hard to become a professor. So educator, someone, a facilitator. Okay, perfect. So you are there. What do you do there?
So I've been there a long time now. I guess it just sort of flew by, but I think like 15 years I've been working with the second-year social service worker students and helping them in their placements. So sort of walking alongside them in their learning journey. I work with the other community partners, and we do their midterm evaluations and their final evaluations and provide feedback. And we have an in-class portion where we debrief and we talk about ethics and professional integrity and, how to put your best foot forward and how to debrief when you encounter a really tough situation while you're learning, and how to really polish your professional image so that when you graduate you're marketable. So I love that job. It's kind of, I call that my little fun job because it's just different, right? It's a change of pace. What I love the most about it is that after the grads leave, I often hear from them, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years later, what they're doing, where they're working. Lots of them go on to finish their degree, lots of them go on to work in the field, and some of them go on to do other things, and I just love hearing where they land.
That's great. You are, God, girl. How do you have time for yourself? You make time for yourself. What do you do for self-care? What do you do for self-care?
Oh, that's a great question. Ooh, I do a lot of reading. I'll lose myself in a book, and I will literally sit on my butt until I read it from front to back, and I don't care if the dishes pile up or the laundry piles up, I'll get to that, but I'll finish that book, and I feel a real sense of gratitude around having that ability. I have an incredibly supportive husband who, pitches in and does at least his share and maybe more sometimes, because lots of times I work late, or I go to a committee meeting or whatever, right? So he's pretty amazing, and I spend time with my friends when, in my social bubble, and that's how I practice self-care. I'm a super social person, so I admit I found that lack of social interaction really tough during COVID. I found it really tricky. I missed my friends, my people, because I don't have a lot of family. So my friends are my social circle.
You're an only child, right?
Yeah, and my brother passed away when I was 12. So
Oh,
I don't
I'm so
anybody.
sorry.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know.
and that's it. All helps form who we are, right? And my parents are both gone, so I rely heavily on like my cousins, my aunts, and my friends. Like so, and my in-laws. Like you gather your people, and those are the people that help you.
Your tribe.
Frustration beaker.
Yes, that's great. I like your frustration beaker. I like you've mentioned that a couple times. I like that term.
It's coming from a workshop that we do here called emotion regulation, and it's a really great analogy about an actual beaker, and kids color it in about where they're at, if they're half full, and we talk about what fills your beaker like frustrated, what makes you frustrated. Maybe it's waiting in line, maybe it's transitions, maybe it's my mom yelling, whatever, right? Those things fill your beaker. Okay, now what empties your beaker? Oh, going for a walk, going for a bike ride, having a nap, having a shower, those things empty my beaker. So it's really important for all of us to know what fills it and what empties it, and keeping it at least a half level maybe, because everyday life, right? If your alarm doesn't go off and you're running late, that's filling your beaker. The guy in front of you cut you off, your coffee's not right, all those things fill up. So then all of a sudden, if your son or daughter says, is sassy, then you lose it on them, and you're like, oh, you know what? This isn't about them being sassy. This is about the other 17 things I just dealt with.
You are just wonderful. You know that? I think I made a comment to you that I'd like you to be like on my speed dial when we were all done. Our parenting thing, because I'm like, you just seem to have, I don't want to say you have all the answers because that makes you sound, but you just, you got away, girl. You got away.
I think, well, and when we do parent group, my partner Marilyn and I, we say it right up front, we're going to share our epic fails with you because we've got lots of them, and even though I know all this stuff and I can preach it and I can tell you and I can share it, I have my moments where I'm not proud and it's not my finest moment. But I've learned the art of like relationship repair, being able to say to your kids, you know what, that was not my best. I am really sorry I lost my cool. It had nothing to do with you. It was the other 17 things I dealt with, and I'm going to try harder because that wasn't fair to you, and I'm sorry that I lost my cool, and like really genuinely apologizing and saying like, I'm sorry, I'm going to do better. And kids are so resilient and forgiving, and they just eat that up. They're like, oh, it's okay, mommy. They appreciate that. We expect a lot from our kids. Like we'd say things like, you need to apologize, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And I think if we take a step back and we realize the pressures that they're dealing with, that maybe we could approach it in a more collaborative way and saying, how can I help you do that? Or how can I be supportive? Or what do you need? If you're having a hard time, and you're giving me a hard time, let's work on what's giving you a hard time. Because I bet you'd see a decrease in having a hard time, right?
Instead of resisting. I find I do that with my children. If I have a less stellar mother moment, and I'll be like, I'm not one of these people that say do as I say, not as I do with my kids. And my kids turned out okay. So I think I'm doing, right? So it must, you know what I mean. They're doing all right. But I find that I think kids really do learn from example. And if your mother or father, the big authoritative figure in your world, because that's who we are, like if we come and we're humbled enough to say, hey, I am so sorry I hurt your feelings because I love you and that wasn't right, and I just, like you say, my beaker was blah blah blah, but you are worth better, that you deserve better than that. You're my world, yeah. And I think that makes them feel loved. It makes them feel seen, because that's a big thing. Some kids don't feel like anyone sees them, so they feel seen, they feel heard, and then they're learning a valuable lesson that You can get your point across. Good people still blow up. Good people still have their faults, but it's how you recover from that is what it. Yeah, like with all this that's happening right now, what the world is watching is we're watching how we're going to recover from what's been happening. So it's a big learning thing. I think we have another. Oh, thanks, Mom. Look at my daughter just said thanks, Mom. I'm not certain what. That's my daughter, Courtney. Yes.
That's amazing.
Isn't that she's watching the show? Isn't that nice?
That's really cool.
I'm very lucky. My girls and my son are very supportive, and my soon-to-be husband. Feels weird saying that, but anyways.
Well, and that's role modeling, right? They are giving back, and they've learned how to do that, which is whether we need to, like, we're teaching our kids all the time the things that we want them to learn and the things that we don't want them to learn. So we're teaching them by what we're doing all the time. So, it's just important to always know that. So if we're teaching them not so good habits, then we're going to have to double up on the other ones.
Yes, and it's much easier just to kind of go teach them the way you want them to go instead of I don't want to. Someone said, I think it was in the US a while ago, I saw a sign that said it's a lot easier to raise a child than to fix an adult.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's really our whole cornerstone of our philosophy is, we serve kids and families 0 to 18, and the earlier for intervention and education, the earlier the better, because if we can provide children and families with support and education around developmental milestones and the early years and attachment-based parenting and all of that, then you're building that strong foundation of attachment that is going to get you through some of the more challenging times as kids come into their own and they want to push the limits and they want to be independent and they want to, kind of venture out on their own. And that's why I urge parents, if they are struggling when their kids are young, it's easy to say, oh, I'm sure it's normal, or, well, I feel like my problem isn't big enough. Honestly, there is really no problem too small. If, you just need a little bit of support, call and talk to our intake team, and they can hook you up with somebody to give you that kind of support so that you don't need to sort of panic as they get older and you've established a bit of a relationship with our agency and you can come back for a tune-up or you can come back for a top-up or whatever you want to call it.
Yes, I hear you. Now, there's this kids' help phone.
Yes.
So
it's amazing. So quite some time ago, they established a 24/7, 365-day a year, like.
Who's they?
What's that?
Who's they?
Oh, the province, like sort of provincial initiative. So anybody could call. Like, I think the age, I don't even think they would turn anyone away. They would redirect them if they weren't the right age or whatever. But it was toll free, and it had a pretty good response. But in the last couple of years, they've shifted that to be you can talk, text, chat online, email. Like the platform has expanded its ability to sort of communicate with kids however they want to. And I know for me, I've had clients say, I would never call, because kids don't call, they text or they, online chat. And I've had clients say that they've taken advantage of the texting or online chatting and they've liked it. So I think that's just a sort of another sign that we have to really be flexible and meet kids where they're at, because what works for us, bless you, what works for us and what we think is helpful may not be for them. So if we're missing the mark on how they want to communicate, we're missing out on an opportunity to support them.
Well, it's old school meets new school.
Yeah.
Seriously, like these kids, like we go, God, I would prefer to talk to you, I prefer to see you, I prefer to use my voice, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what they like, because it's a different, so it's us really that has to adapt, which is kind of really. Yeah. And it seems to be, we're almost forced, right now we're forced to, right? And in a way that's we'll say it's almost closing the generational gap a little bit. Because it's
I agree. and we're in that bit of role reversal where our kids are teaching us. And it's empowering for them. For my 11-year-old to have to show me how to get on a Zoom meeting, because she does Google Hangout with her classmates, she felt pretty stoked about teaching me something, which was really cool. And and I was thankful that she could, because I'd still be trying to figure it out. But the kids helpline, we hear about kids who might be feeling suicidal or might be feeling vulnerable, and it's 2 a.m. and their parents are sound asleep and they're not likely to go wake them up, or they're thinking, I just want to talk to someone. And it's a really great resource for kids who might not actually physically reach out and talk to someone. And the operators are trained that if there's a serious issue or safety issue, they're going to manage that. So they're going to, if they need to, they're going to call 911 for 911 to come and intervene. And it's a great resource that not everybody knows about.
Well, speaking of 911, it just came to me, or I would have gotten the information to show on the screen. They're revamping, aren't they? They're revamping the mental health calls, how they're addressing those. Do you know much about that?
I know a little bit. The MPART program. So the police are partnering with mental health nurses, and I believe it's through CMHA, and which is Canadian Mental Health. Sorry, and we talk in acronyms and we forget that not everybody knows what we're talking about. Alphabet soup. But the Canadian Mental Health is partnering with the police, and the nurses are actually riding along with officers on shifts, specific shifts, I think, in maybe the peak hours for challenging situations with mental health involved. And so when there's a situation, let's say they get a call that somebody's suicidal, and I think there was an instance recently where they were able to de-escalate a situation where somebody was on the top of an overpass.
Wow.
And the police and the mental health nurse were able to talk that person down, literally. And the officers that I've talked to about it have said they feel an incredible sense of relief knowing they have somebody who that's their specialty. Because let's face it, our officers, we're asking a lot of them to intervene in domestic violence, to make sure the roads are safe, to have an eye on the drug culture in our town. Oh, and by the way, if somebody's struggling mentally, you have to recognize that and intervene with a professional lens. That's really a lot to sort of, that's a lot going on at once, a lot of balls in the air.
It sure is a lot. It sure is. But I read that article and I was so impressed. Unfortunately, our police
strategy. Other communities have tried it and it's been very successful. And so it was a pilot project here. A little bit, I know. It was a pilot project here, and I believe it got renewed, which is excellent. So I think that the more that our community supports those initiatives and sees the value in that, the better. I think we have some pretty forward-thinking people who are making those decisions, which is great.
I have to say I'm pretty proud of our community. We seem to have really, I guess I've been paying a lot more attention, because I'm now online. I'm not a very techie person, so this is all new. This is what I learned through COVID on my 4 months of being off work. I chose to figure out how to use the tech world. But our community, I'm proud to live here in Sarnia. And
I am as well.
Point Edward neighbor.
Yeah.
the Point girl. But
I am a proud Point girl, but I am very proud of our community. I feel like we've responded versus reacted to this pandemic, and I know our agency in particular has spent an incredible amount of time and effort, building a plan for us to return to work safely. And I know I have felt very supported around being able to work from home and with balancing work life and my kids' needs and stuff. So any agency or business that has employees that have kids or don't have kids, it's so important. Mental wellness has to be at the forefront, because if you're not feeling mentally well, how can you be effective in your job no matter what you do? Let's say you are a firefighter. If you're feeling mentally unwell and you have to go into a burning building and your mind is not on your task at hand, how are we effective? So I think
sorry, I forgot to mute the phone. Sorry.
That's all right. Time and money well spent to prioritize mental wellness in your staff group, no matter what that looks like.
Oh, absolutely. We have a couple more comments here. Okay. Great. Look at Jay Peckham.
Thanks.
Yeah, and this is one of my dear friends, Rebecca. She loves Liz Page. I think all the parents out there that are actively engaged in raising and helping their kids with their mental wellness. Those ones, because not everybody is, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They all know you. The ones that everybody knows you, Liz.
It's a benefit of growing up here too, right? I've known Becca for decades, and she's an amazing mom, and her kids go to the same public school that our kids go to, and I'm just really grateful. I mean, I have met some incredible people along the way, and community partners and my coworkers here. Like, I feel really lucky to be able to. Every day is a new day. Every day is different. I'm never bored because people bring different situations, and I like a challenge. And anyway, I think
You love your job, and I can see it.
I really do. Yeah, you know what I think. What I love the most is the connection and meeting different people and being able to work alongside them. And I've never professed to know everything or be the be all end all, but I have amazing colleagues that I can turn to and say, hey, I've got this case. It's really tricky. Like, what do you think about this? And like consult with people and pick their brain, and it's like a puzzle.
Now, I think I read this, that you also work with the girls' home or something?
For the first 20 years that I was working, I worked at the community girls' home.
Do we have a girls' home in town anymore?
No, we don't. It closed in, I think, about 9-10 years ago. So provincially, residential care is the most expensive service. And the philosophy is that kids should be at home with their families, and we need to support them in their home environment in order to make sure that they're able to sort of be able to build those skills and remain at home. I have, of course, I still have this feeling that there's still a few girls in our community that did really well in that milieu, that positive role modeling, that 24/7 supervision, that built-in peer group. But there was a million different positives about it, and I loved my job. However, I have to agree that the in-home model and providing services in-home and supporting families is more empowering to parents to be able to say, you've got this, I'm going to coach you, I'm going to help you, I'm going to support you, we're going to get through this together.
Yes.
I think, lots of parents felt really awful about making that decision about having their daughter go to a girls' home. So I do feel that that's a really important piece of resiliency with families. So
well, I think it's
when it closed. So.
Yes, I heard that it had closed, but I do agree with what you're saying. That actually makes a lot of sense, because some people just go, I can't handle this kid anymore. Off you go.
And parents were making those decisions for the right reasons. Lots of times they were just like so overwhelmed, and they were like they felt like they were failing, and so they sort of handed their daughters off to sort of for lack of a better word, they were wanting help, and so acknowledging that and making sure they didn't feel they were being judged, and making sure they knew that that we believed they had lots and lots and lots of skills, and they loved their daughter immensely, and that we wanted to work with them. That was a huge part of our philosophy, right? And the public perception, all the bad girls live there, like that was ridiculous. But there's still some of that out there,
Stigma.
But yeah, I think it's provincially, there's not very many residential agencies out there anymore, because it's such an expensive specialized service. So trying to do more with those dollars and trying to support more families and be more proactive and preventative, so that we don't get to the point where somebody has to leave their home.
That makes
There's one in Park Hill. There's
sense.
A girls' home in Park Hill called Inago. So if somebody did need residential services, that's the closest female at home.
Okay, so let's talk about stigma.
Yes.
Stigma. How do we get around this stigma of everybody? Like, what is to the folks that might be watching that go, mental health is just whatever. People are crazy, blah blah blah. Because let's be real, that's what some people are, very close-minded, and they just think mental health is just it's not a good,
Yeah. So I feel like we've grown in leaps and bounds in our community around decreasing stigma. Of course, there's still some stigma that exists, but there's different things in our community that are happening that are really helping. Things like this, things like having a platform to share your voice and your experience, having parents listen and feel like, wow, yeah, that's exactly how I felt, and and that person seems to have it together, so I'm not a total failure. And really letting people know that everyone has mental health struggles in some way, shape, or form, right?
We all do.
Letting people know that it's okay to talk. People want to hear your story. People want to support you. The Face Off for Mental Health campaign, which has been wildly successful
yes.
in our community. Yeah,
I got that here. Tell me, what is that about? This thing.
What's that?
What is this all about?
So, oh gosh, it's probably about 4 years ago now. There was a coach in the hockey system who had a young person struggling with suicidal ideation, and this coach was a trusted adult, and he felt completely ill-prepared to deal with that, and so he reached out to our agency and said, what can we do to be supporting our youth? Is there a way we could sort of equip our coaches and that sort of thing? Anyways, so this initiative was born, and our agency is sort of quarterbacking it, and that's, I guess, a football term, but we've been coaching coaches around making the rink a safe place to talk. We've been having hockey associations from all over, like Forest, Strath, like all around our community, Alvinston, Sarnia, like all around our Lambton County, Petrolia. They've joined us, Moortown, and they come to these meetings and we talk about how do we promote mental wellness, how do we decrease the stigma, how do we make the rink a safe place to talk. And so for the month of November, we sort of focus on mental health. Some kids wear green skate laces. They all tape their stick screens. So there's this visual display, and it's a conversation starter in the rink. So like other teams are saying, how come you guys all have your sticks taped green? And kids are saying, like kids, oh, that's because of mental wellness and, making the rink a safe place to talk. And kids are able to recognize that early on that, if I have a problem, my coach or, the trainer, I can tell them and they will make sure that my mom or dad gets me going in the right direction. Or maybe mom and dad aren't aware. And so it's a really great initiative. Tom Babcock is one of our biggest supporters. He does a huge golf tournament every year at Huron Oaks, and they raise a lot of money for Face Off for Mental Health because we like to give the kids some kind of swag so that, like, for instance, the first year was pucks. The second year it was oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on what it was the second year. And last year it was cinch bags. So there's like the visual in the community. Oh, it was tubes one year. You see these kids out in the community with like their swag, and you see it like 2 years later, and you're like, oh, they're still using their cinch bags. How cute is that? But it's a real vehicle for a conversation starter. And we've had some provincial attention. We've had people, in further communities saying, we need that. We need this here. We had a community further afield saying that they had a suicide. One of their young men, like I'm going to say like 21, died by suicide, and their hockey community was rocked. So they wanted some information on how do we build this program. And we don't own the program. We share the knowledge. We hope it catches on everywhere. It's amazing. I love that.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I like you.
Hey,
I like you and all those. I like everything. I love you. I think you're wonderful. I really do. And
Friday.
What
a great way to start Friday.
Yeah. What a great way to start Friday. Well, you are. You're amazing. And speaking of hockey, you're an avid hockey mom. Yeah. I see.
Yeah, I've been involved in minor hockey now for, I think about 14 or 15 years, and it kind of consumes us all winter long, and we have more questions than answers about what this coming season is going to look like, but a real sense of community and a real sense of family, and I don't know, just a real sense of collaboration. So that's part of what I take away from that. And
friendship. You meet so many friends and good people.
Amazing friends.
It's a great
my
circle.
My friend's mom became one of my best friends because of hockey, really. That's amazing.
It is pretty cool. It is. Well, speaking of hockey, we'll go sidebar for a second, okay?
Yeah.
For everyone who's been struggling with their mental wellness because they miss their sports, hockey's coming back. Yeah. August 1st. So that's good.
Well, the arenas are opening. Is that what you mean?
Well, I'm talking the NHL. I'm pretty excited, and I said to Jamie, I'm like, I am so excited. So Jamie and I, we're collaborating. My fiance and I, so you're gonna have to keep a lookout for what we're up to with hockey on this Jules and Company TV. But listen, we're almost close to our hour mark. We could talk all day. I would love to talk to you all day, and I think that we may need to do this again.
Anytime.
Okay, we need to do this again. So I want to just point out, I just want to recap a couple things. because there's so much. But one thing I want to say to anyone who's watching, you're not alone. You're not crazy. You're not stupid. You're none of those things. You are wonderful. You are beautiful, and you deserve great things. And I, Liz, everybody, there's people around that care. We care.
Absolutely.
And there's lots of resources available. Don't ever feel alone. Hope, you have to hold on to hope. There's hope. So I do encourage you to call this number if you need to. But you can also reach out to this lovely Liz Page, can't you? You can call you, yeah? You can reach you. There's all kinds of things. Rebound. Oh, I love Rebound.
Rebound does an incredible job in our community with youth. They are so creative. They are so innovative in trying to develop programming that will hook our kids and youth. And some people still have that misconception that they're just the kids against the rules of the law, and that is so false.
I don't like that. It makes me sad.
They are doing an incredible job. They have an expressive arts program. They have a music program. They have a decision making called Choices. They have a LGBTQ friendly group that even if you're an ally and you just want to learn, and they're doing amazing things.
I had one of my daughters when she was probably in grade 4. She was told she was fat and did not want to wear her bathing suit. In grade 4. Think about that. It makes me so sad. And so that is when I was introduced to Rebound. My young daughter was in a workshop building self-esteem, and I loved it. And she continued to go. The folks that work there, the thing is, they genuinely care, and that is what matters. And they need to feel connection. I
was just going to say, so much of counseling is all about the relationship. And so, I encourage people, if that's missing and you're trying and you're just not clicking, be honest about that, because your therapist or your counselor wants you to have that connection. And sometimes it's a relief too. We're like, yeah, I get it. Maybe we need to try a different fit. You need to try something else. No hurt our feelings. It's about you getting what you need.
My daughter yesterday said, Mom, I don't think I could talk to I had 2 daughters. We were talking, and she's like, I don't know. I don't like talking to people, Mom. She says, it makes me uncomfortable. And I said, okay, well, I think you just need to find the right person to talk to. So thank you for reinforcing that, because I've had many counselors, and I've sat across some of them and went, it ain't gonna work. It doesn't mean they're not good people, but they're not for me. So when you find the right one, you'll feel that connection where there's the compassion and empathy is there, and you'll just, it just happens. Just allow yourself to be who you are, right? So, but I also want to remind, I really like this parent thing that we talked about earlier. This is one of my favorite things, the resources for parents. I am a firm believer in it takes a village. I am not too proud. I want to hear where you messed up or where your glories and all of your positives, your negatives, because that's how you learn, right? And that's supporting each other. So I encourage people to check this out. And
after leave, Jesse and Tanya are eager to build their community and have that group grow and have people feel supported, and it's just a great opportunity to sort of, find your niche in our community around here.
Yes, I think it's great. So here's the other one. Now this one here, just a quick question. You said it was the Lambton Family Advisory Committee.
Yes.
So this is more about...
It's more about advocacy, and for instance, some of the parents are really passionate about trying to expand our services around eating disorders in our community, because it's a really specialized skill to treat that illness. And so that's a really concrete example of some of the discussions we have at that table, is how can we support folks who are struggling with their child having an eating disorder. Where do we support them, and how do we do that? So that's one. And another example is that group is really interested in what's going on at the education level, and how are the schools supporting students, and
I like that very much.
How is government funding things, and it's a little bit more of a it's different than peer-to-peer support. It's a little bit more about advocacy and having a voice and shaping how services are delivered. And at our agency, like our directors are saying, when we develop a policy, they want to run it by our family advisory committee, saying, does this work for you? Does our new intake process, does that work for you? Or is that something that would deter you from accessing service? Because that's really important to know that. So that group is quite powerful as far as, they might not realize how powerful they are, but that is a very powerful group around identifying service gaps and ways to meet parents and families and kids in our community.
Well, you need to be able to work with the parents in order to work with the children, right? Like if you can have a connection with the parents, because I am the middle of my kid and you, so you know, where I'm that go-between, and if you know what I mean, like you need to. I think parents. I love that you're asking for parents' input.
Well, and we've even tried to get the word out to parents for our virtual and phone sessions, and even our walk-in when we're back in the building full time and ready for face-to-face contact. Parents can actually come to our walk-in to talk about what's going on with their child and what they're struggling with and what their kids are struggling with. Sometimes parents need that opportunity, right? So let's say your daughter or your son doesn't want to go, or like, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't think I have a problem, I'm fine with this, but you're like, no, this is the problem. You can come by yourself. You don't have to drag your son or daughter. You can come and, share your problems, get support, get some suggestions. We might give you some ideas and tips about how to maybe encourage them to come. Anyway, I think parents have the misconception sometimes that their son or daughter has to be in the session, and that's just not the case. So,
well, sometimes obviously you believe this because you know, but I know personally that when I've come in on my own to St. Clair Child Youth, when I leave, I feel encouraged. I feel prepared. I feel like I've been given that little wind in my sails to go home and provide that. So even though the child's missing it maybe one-on-one from you, you're equipping that parent to come home and to be a better, the best for the situations at home.
That's ideal. That's really encouraging to hear that that's been your experience. And we do these client feedback surveys after every single walk-in or virtual session, and we do really honestly want the feedback, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If somebody has an experience where they leave feeling worse or they leave feeling like they didn't get what they needed, we want to know that so that we can do better. We're the lead agency for children's mental health, and so we have a responsibility to be excellent. And so if we're delivering anything less than excellent, we need to know.
Well, I am going to say this right now. It's on the internet. It's here forever. I think what you do and what the folks do at St. Clair Child Youth and everyone else that's in the organization, in the community, you're wonderful. You're absolutely wonderful. My experiences have been great. So anyone who's listening, you're hearing it from me. I am a client. I'm an advocate, and I completely support you guys. You are wonderful, wonderful human beings. Wonderful. So please continue to do great things. And I definitely want to have you back on here. We need to have another conversation. I think we need to maybe have...
At the risk of making a little plug, I'm on the Suicide Prevention Committee. So if you ever want to talk to somebody on our committee, they are doing incredible work in our community as well. And World Suicide Prevention Day is on September 10th. So if you wanted to do a show near September 10th, that might be a really great group to tap into, because they are tying yellow ribbons around trees and painting rocks. We're doing all kinds of cool things. We're educating people in the community around Safe Talk. We haven't been able to lately, but there are some incredible initiatives and hard work happening in our community. There's in every community, it's a real,
it's real
frightening issue. However, we've had some struggles locally that have prompted us to be even more driven about our initiatives.
So what can people do? What can we do as a community to help you with Suicide Prevention Day or Awareness Day in September 10th?
Well, I will send you, we're having a little flyer printed up around ways that everyone can participate. This year we can't gather as a group.
Okay.
Last year we had a really cool kind of like an art exhibit at Artopia, and we had I think there were 10 or 12 black and white portraits that were done, and they were incredible. And everyone had a little blurb about their story, and it was really powerful.
Oh, nice.
So I'm hoping that we can display those at the art gallery uptown, but if that doesn't happen, we will find a place to display them around that time. The best thing everyone could do is tie a yellow ribbon around their tree or change their signage on their business to say World Suicide Prevention. We want to really have a visual display and sort of smash that stigma around talking about it, because a lot of people whisper the word, kind of like people whisper the word cancer, and they whisper the word suicide. And we need to bring it out into the light and say, it's a problem, we need to talk about it, and we need kids and adults and everyone to feel safe saying, I'm feeling this way and I need help.
Exactly. 100%. Agree. So if I wanted to get a yellow ribbon, do they have some kind of campaign where you raise money, where people buy yellow ribbons from you, or is there anything like that? That might be
Typically, we encourage people to go buy a roll. You can buy it at Michael's.
Go buy a roll. Just go buy a roll.
Tie your tree and tie your tree if they tie you. You know, like, just kind of take it on yourself. Like, we kind of got a little overwhelmed with requests one year. People saying, "We come and put one on my tree," and we were all over the city tying yellow ribbons. And it's like, you know what? Let's make it even more powerful by encouraging people to get on board and spread it. You know, like I had people messaging me saying, "I can't find yellow ribbon in this city," and I'm like, "I know, because we bought it all." So be proactive, get it now, and have it, and you'll see. We did all downtown last year, which was really cool.
I will help you if you need someone to help tie ribbons.
Like, you will see ribbons everywhere. Businesses like Manly's, McDonald's, they put it on their sign, and it just warms my heart that our local business people are participating, and it's great. So.
It just brings back, like you say, it's like talking about the elephant in the room, right? And I'm a firm believer that you need to talk about the elephant in the room, because we all know it's there, and not talking about it's not going to make it go away.
And it doesn't, and talking about it doesn't mean it's going to give somebody the idea. It means it's going to give somebody who's already thinking about it permission to say, I'm having a hard time, and I'm having thoughts of suicide, and I need help. So you'll see the yellow bracelet if they reach out.
We are not done talking. You and I have a lot to talk about. You've got a yellow ribbon in there?
I have a bracelet for you when I see you next.
Okay, but do you sell these things to raise money for you guys? Do you do anything like that?
Bracelets are the Suicide Prevention Committee buys them. We have literally thousands of them. We used to give them away at Art Walk. We used to give them, and we give them away because we want to see youth wearing them. And I see them all over the city, and I love it.
Okay.
So we have some. If somebody like Tom's golf tournament, we would make sure it's August 15th. He gets one for every swag bag, and every golfer gets one. We want.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
If somebody wants to make a donation, we will not refuse.
Yes, let's talk about donations. I just want people to give you some money. I want people to help you.
All you can help, and you know, it's a reality in our community that every social service agency.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So typically we have these at our front desk here at the office, and if somebody wants to put, a Emily or a Toonie in there and take one, that's
okay.
So our goal is just to keep being able to purchase them.
Okay, perfect. Well, I want some of those from you. I've got a list of things that I wrote down that we need to talk about after this is all done. So again, girlfriend, mwah, you are amazing. I am so glad you came on. Oh, this was great. Thank you for spending your morning drinking coffee with me. Did you drink your coffee?
It was my pleasure. I don't feel like it was work. I feel like it was a pleasure. So
I'm going to tell you that, well, you're very welcome. And this was out of all of my little chats, this morning chats seem to work best. I like this. Morning chat's good. So we're gonna have morning coffee again soon. So everybody who's watching, thank you. Please reach out. You're not alone. There's lots of resources, and what I will do is all of those links I will post on my page, so people can access later. Because
and if anybody has any questions about our services, please feel free to call our agency. We have an incredible intake team who will guide you in the right direction, and if you're calling about something we don't offer, they will point you in the right direction to find somebody that will help you with what you need.
Good stuff. All right, well listen, girl, you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Have a fabulous weekend.
I'm going to.
Stay safe, keep smiling, and I'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.